Good morning, everybody. It's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question of, could I talk a little bit about helping men who are over 50 maintain muscle mass? But you know what? I think we need to talk about how to make them gain a little bit of muscle mass too. I think that's even more important because there's a lot of fringe benefits that come with that. So let me put on my +5 capital weaponsmithing, and let's talk about this. All right, guys. The first thing we need to address is what causes men to start losing muscle mass when they get 50 plus. But you know, the truth is there's a misnomer there that this suddenly starts at their 50s. Actually, the loss of muscle mass starts in your 30s. It's very measurable in your early to mid 30s, usually about 35. You start seeing a decline in testosterone levels, a decline in muscle mass, unless you're exercising, training in a way to help hold on to it. So it's important that we understand that. And there's a lot of factors involved. It's not just testosterone, although testosterone and growth hormone production are near the top of the list. They're not the only factors involved. Aging is more complex than just hormones. Aging involves actual DNA damage, cellular damage, things like that, damage to your ability to replicate cells over time, little minor mutations. There's a lot going on there. But hormones play a big role. So this all needs to be addressed and it needs to be understood. But yeah, you start losing mobility, you start having connective tissue issues as you get older as well. And again, unless you address those in your training and your lifestyle, it is going to be harder to hold on to muscle mass. It's going to be harder no matter what. There are things we can do about this. Now, number one up on the list, guys, hormones. You start getting into your 30s, if you start seeing declining testosterone, one of the best things you can do to hold on to muscle mass is to talk to your endocrinologist about testosterone replacement therapy. That's way up there on the list, guys. And I've linked meta-analysis studies, things like that on it, and we know at this point, based upon the research of some very good doctors who've really put a lot of time into this, that at this point, men who have clinically low testosterone, that means anything under 300 nanograms per deciliter. And I know a lot of guys are going to go, well, even if 300 seems low to me. Well, it might be, but the clinically described definition is under 300 nanograms per deciliter. If it's not under there, you're not subject to these studies. But what they found is that men who, when they compare men who have clinically diagnosed low testosterone, that men who go on TRT versus those who don't have lower heart attack rates, lower stroke rates, and I'm talking upwards of 30% lower. Lower diabetes rates. All these lifestyle-induced diseases we think of are also have an aging component. They have a testosterone component. Men need testosterone to be healthy. If our testosterone goes too low, it doesn't even have to go down to where a woman's is. We already have higher heart attack rates than women. But when our testosterone goes low, it goes up quite a bit. And again, over 30% higher. So you're talking about some basic health stuff here. So people worry about the dangers of TRT. Well, I'm sorry, heart attack is the #1 killer in the U.S. TRT lowers heart attack rates over 30% in men who actually need it or who could benefit from it. All right, that's a no-brainer. This shouldn't even be a debate at this point anymore. Stroke and heart attack, those are ultra killers. They're reduced. But TRT, guys, TRT is one of the best things you can do to help hold on to muscle mass. In fact, the TRT alone will help you preserve muscle without any training. And if you are training, you're getting a double dose there. You're really doubling up. You're doubling down on your efforts. Other things you need to look at. Holding on to muscle mass as you get older, rest and sleep are important. If you're a workaholic, a lot of older guys are trying to build that empire, trying to put away to retire. They're trying to put the children through college. A lot of men work a lot. You're going to have to take the time to get that sleep in. As you get older, you need more sleep. Well, we know lack of sleep is a muscle mass killer no matter what. And a lot of times we'll say, well, you need at least 7 hours a night. That does seem to be the case for younger men. For the majority, but there are exceptions. But for older guys, you got to get a minimum of 8 hours uninterrupted sleep every night no matter what. You don't do that, you don't get your 8 hours, it's going to be harder to hold on to muscle mass. Sleep is going to be critical. All right, also on that list, nutrition, a good balanced diet. And that's not necessarily true, but if we're talking about overall health, it is. Yeah, you could eat a lot of junk food and bulk up and gain muscle. You'll get fatter, but you'll hold on to muscle easier if you're eating a lot of just empty calories and cheeseburgers and stuff. But it's not going to be conducive to you living longer. And again, it comes down to, why are you trying to hold on to muscle mass and fat both, or are you just trying to hold on to the muscle mass? I would hope most of you guys are just trying to hold on to the muscle mass. So in which case, a balanced diet is going to be important. Plenty of vegetables, fruit, lean proteins. Pretty high on your list. Get plenty of fiber in. Foods high in fiber, and I don't mean a fiber supplement. Look at the amount of fiber on your foods. You probably need to be getting a minimum of 30 grams of fiber a day from whole foods. You can do that through your vegetables and things. Same thing, keeping your protein intake at least 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So what does that mean for most guys? Most of you guys at least 80 or 90 grams a day. And I'm not going to sit here and argue. A lot of guys are going to come in and say, oh, you need 1 gram per pound. No, you don't. That's bodybuilder magazine bullshit. That's not even supported by the scientific literature for strength athletes or professional elite level athletes. That's not even supported for them. So that's just bodybuilder hype to sell products. But those are going to be important things. The other things you're going to have to look at, your weight training itself. As you get older, connective tissue does recover slower. That's a big factor in how much training you can do and what you can do. Your tendons recover slower. They almost seem to dry out a little bit as you get older. You've got to pay close attention to your tendons. You need to pay close attention to your total volume. And you need to ask yourself, well, since you know the big heavy movements are what put the most muscle on you, you really need to think through all your isolation movements. Pick your isolation movements carefully. You shouldn't be throwing random ones in. You need to think through each one, research each one, and see if they put stress on your connective tissue. For example, having big, strong triceps will make you look better as you get older. It helps, your arms hug your sleeves a little bit, but you need to ask yourself with each tricep movement, does it inflame the connective tissue or not? Because some do and some don't. If you're doing any of them to where you have your elbows pulled in, or you put the weight towards your face as an isolation movement, instead of, coming up and down, but anything that has you come right to the face, is going to inflame these tendons right here on the lateral and medial head. Might not be as big of a deal when you're younger, but you get older, that's how you're going to get golfer's elbow from weightlifting. Pick your movements carefully. And I've got a whole series of videos on that stuff. So pay attention to those isolation movements. I'll just do a bunch of random ones. Focus on the big, heavy compounds. You need to moderate both volume and intensity. What do I mean by intensity? That means weight on the bar. Unless you're going to be a strength athlete, you probably don't want to be doing maxes. Leave that for the younger guys. In fact, I would say the majority of your work needs to be focused upon just maintaining basic strength and basic muscle mass, unless you need more power for a reason. And you know what? If you need power for a reason, you can do power-specific exercises. You can do deadlifts, you can do power cleans, you can do push presses, pendlay rows, if you need more power for some reason. Again, I like to do power training. I do push presses, I do deadlifts. But I'm going to say that outside of those power-specific needs, you need to probably stick mostly in the 5 to 10 rep range. Too high a rep range is probably inefficient for older guys. To gain muscle mass, really, really high reps tend to work best for guys on hefty doses of drugs. Not saying you can't gain muscle off 20 rep sets natural, because you absolutely can. There's plenty of research showing that you can. But older guys, you need to modulate your total volume and workload. You probably want to be doing more cardio just to get cardio in, not necessarily weight training. Again, about saving your connective tissue. And you probably don't want to do too much heavy work that's up above 85% 1 rep max. Again, same thing. Tough on your connective tissue. I'd say stick to mostly 5 to 10 reps. Mostly compounds with very selective isolation movements, depending on kind of what muscles you think you need to work. Keeping everything balanced is going to be absolutely critical as well. You can't have muscle imbalances. You can't have quads that are too strong for your hamstrings. Again, you want to save your knees. You want strong knees. You need to have strong hamstrings. So you need to put a heavier focus on things like your hamstrings instead of your quads. I'm going to recommend older guys not really sit around isolating their quads. Again, connective tissue and joint health becomes important. Being quad dominant hurts that. It can damage your knees over time. So you need to, I wouldn't do anything for quads as an older guy trying to gain muscle beyond just basic squats. Front squats, back squats, high bar squats, low bar squats. That's it. Nothing else. Anything more, again, going to be a problem. So focus upon those hamstrings more. If you're going to hammer anything on your lower body, the hamstrings. That's what gives you knee stability. That's what's going to let you be physically active without injuring your knees, because again, you injure a knee, you're going to have trouble holding on to muscle mass. You're not going to be able to do the big compounds you want to do anymore, the squats, the deadlifts and stuff, if you got a knee injury. You're going to lose muscle mass. Knee health is critical. Shoulder health is critical. Put a lot of focus, instead of on the front delts, the rear delts back here, the posterior head. That is the head that you need to stabilize the joint. Again, you get a shoulder injury, what's going to happen? You can't work your upper body as much. You're going to lose muscle mass. You got to stay injury free. Joint health and muscle balance become important. Don't grip the bar too wide on any exercise. Don't do wide grip pull downs, wide grip pull ups. Don't do wide grip bench press. Keep everything inside the rings. No more than shoulder width every exercise that you do. Shoulder width at the most. Again, it puts less stress on your shoulder joints. Lets you build muscle mass without tearing your joints up. Again, that's critical stuff for the older man, or the older lifter, I guess the woman as well. A lot of women need to hold on to their muscle mass. So thinking about these things becomes really important. And you know what? The other big thing there with all of that? Full range of motion exercises. Loss of mobility becomes a bigger issue. It's harder to keep your joints and tendons healthy as you get older. You lose mobility in your hips, your shoulders, or whatever, because you're not training everything through a full range of motion with balanced front to back muscle groups. What's going to happen? Higher injury rate, more tendonitis, more pain. It's going to be harder to hold on to muscle mass. So you need to focus on mobility, and the best way to keep your mobility is not just stretching, it's to actually train with weight through full range of motion on all your exercises. If you squat, go all the way to parallel. Maybe even ass to grass, depending upon your structure. If you deadlift, don't do rack pulls. Pull it all the way from the floor. Don't do sumo, do conventional. When you close grip bench press, whether it's, because again, I don't recommend the wide grip for older guys. When you close grip bench press, whether it's incline or flat or decline, touch the bar to your chest and pause it there for a brief count. Get full range of motion on everything. Lock everything out at the top. Full range of motion keeps your joints healthy, keeps you from getting hurt, reduces damage to everything, and it lets you hold on to your muscle mass easier. So in summary, guys, the keys here are paying attention to your hormones. Testosterone replacement therapy is needed. Most of you are going to need it to hold on to muscle eventually. Balanced diet, plenty of sleep, regulating intensity, workload, exercise selection, and full range of motion exercises. Those are going to be the keys as you get older to holding on to your muscle mass, because it's going to be a fight the older you get, and that's how you win that fight. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.